Good morning, everybody. So, I got another topic for you today I wanted to talk about. I don't know why I've been sticking with these political posts lately. Normally, I stay away from politics because it doesn't matter anymore what side you're on. They're all taking advantage of us equally. In this case, what's been bothering me, and I want us to think about this together, is that here in the United States, over the past couple of decades, we've been giving up largely freedom after freedom after freedom, all constitutional freedoms, collectively. And I'll explain what I mean. So, in the war on terror, we gave the government the right to arrest people without a fair and speedy trial, to detain them indefinitely, to use torture on them, which violated federal rights concerning unwarranted searches and seizures, arrest without cause, that you have a right to a fair and speedy trial. And then during the COVID pandemic, in addition to all that, we found out that the government tells the world that they can't go to church anymore, so you give up your freedom of religion out of fear. They say that you can't gather in groups anymore, so you give up your right to assembly. They say that you cannot, it's just going on and on and on. One thing after another, after another, after another, isn't it? That we find out the government was conducting illegal wiretaps on us, and when we called them on it, due to WikiLeaks, I might add, we find out that the government just takes this, well, yes, that was a bad idea, wasn't it? So you violated our constitutional right against unwarranted searches and seizures, and there's no consequences for anyone involved. It just came out that the government had been working actively with social media, and I don't know why this just came out. They admitted it during the COVID pandemic, that they were suppressing information that went against the narrative. Yet, when called before the legislature, Dr. Fauci admitted that the bioweapons lab in Wuhan, China, that produced this disease was credible, which we had been telling people throughout the pandemic that this was a bioweapon created in China, and we were called anti-vaxxers and all these other things by people that were scared. So now, if the government labels you a terrorist, you have no rights. But outside of being labeled a terrorist, the government can do whatever it pleases, whenever it pleases, however it pleases, without regard to constitutional freedoms. They're largely limiting our right to bear arms. They've proven that if they get you scared enough, they can take away your freedom of religion, your right to assembly, that they can take away your right to a fair and speedy trial, your freedom of speech. You see where I'm going here with this? One thing after another has fallen since the war on terror, especially. And now we have essentially a paper set of freedoms that exist only as long as the government tolerates those freedoms to be so. And if they become inconvenient, our government can do away with them altogether. It's not really the first time, though, is it? We've seen the government for years do whatever it is they want, even if it's blatantly illegal, and then they classify the matter until whoever could be prosecuted for those things they've done have largely dead past the point where they could be prosecuted, or are retired, and then they declassify all the illegal things they've been doing with tacit American approval. Something is deeply wrong with our government, with our people, because Americans have traded freedom and safety for comfort and security. But that's a diminishing return, because a government that's empowered to think that way we'll start to see threats to safety everywhere, because if there is no security risk, then what is the point of them having this power? If they want to preserve the power that they've got, there needs to be a reason for them to have this power. So they start to see enemies everywhere. And if you want more example of this, take a look at the Soviet Union. How many of those people that they executed were diehard members of the political party? Men who had charged the barricades and fought and risked their lives for their cause, only to be considered an enemy of their false revolution and targeted for elimination on the word of a paranoid dictator. Does anyone here think that when they first started their revolution that was what they had in mind? Idealism. But it turned into that because they had ultimate power, and they needed a reason to keep that power, because without that reason, they had no reason to exist. So we need to think about this, and we need to talk about this, and we need to do something about this, because if they've proven that they can take all of these freedoms, including the freedom of the press, by causing the online resources such as social media and news platforms to walk it back, everything that is counterproductive, you have no freedom of the press, really. I mean, you want better information? Check this out. So a few weeks ago, Epstein's files became common knowledge, right? And in the beginning was a bunch of news articles stating that a certain politician with the first name of Bill was listed repeatedly in those files. And another politician by the name of Trump was not listed at all. Then about a week later, they start putting out news articles saying there had been a big misunderstanding, and now that politician named Bill was not listed at all in Epstein's files, and Trump was listed dozens of times. And you go on the internet and try to search for the original article, and it doesn't exist anymore. Now, what are the odds that they just happened to read the wrong name dozens of times and then went on the internet and posted a news article complete with links and citations, only to realize they had made a tragic mistake dozens of times and read the wrong name? Unfortunate. Tragic, even. America, you're being lied to, you're being played, you're being used. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm sorry to bring it to you. Our freedoms are gone. The media is actively lying to us. The government is using us. We feel free only because the government doesn't have its attention on us. I mean, we have the right to sit down and be quiet and not create a problem. But we don't have the right to stand up anymore and say that's enough. Anyway, what do you think? Comments down below. Take care. God bless.